Here we are in part number 2 of this brief series. So now that you have your display panel removed, there's 2 screws on both sides that you need to remove. These screws can be a little tricky because they're right on the edge. You don't want to push them too far, they might jump. They're right on the edge. And these screws are different than the screws which go in these holes. They're smaller and shorter, so keep them separate. You need to do a good job of organizing your screws with Dell laptops, because they like to use several different kinds. Though this modern Dell laptop is not nearly as bad as some of the previous models I have worked with. It's a nightmare. And once you have removed these screws, it's time to say goodbye to this old display panel. It has served you well, or at least it did, and you're replacing it. But have no fear. The new display panel is right here. And now, essentially, you do exactly what you just did in the opposite order. I mean, you place all of these screws back into their little holes. You put it all back together, you screw everything back in and plug everything back together, and it should start up quite happily with your brand fancy new screen. Careful with these screws, they're very small. This screen, you may have noticed, has a plastic protector sheet in front of it. This is so that you don't get any fingerprints or anything nasty on it while you are doing installation. So that when you are completely finished, you have a pristine, untouched screen. That even rhymed. Pristine, untouched screen. It really doesn't matter when you remove the plastic, so long as you remove it before you have everything back in place. Now when you come to put this back in, you have to pay attention over here, because this has to go inside there, inside that little hole. Then you line up the little plastic studs which are in these 4 corners, and the screen should, if the fates are on your side, yes, good, the screen connects right back there. And then the recommended order is to start in the top right corner over here with the screws. Screw number 1. Screw number 2 goes in the bottom right corner. I mean, I assume that if you're watching this you can read, and so each of the little holes has a number next to it. And you simply install it in that order: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are plenty of screws holding this screen in place. Notice that a lot of them are on the bottom as well. The bottom needs more screws because of their design. Your screen is almost directly attached, well actually it is directly attached to the hinge there, and you don't want the bottom of your screen coming loose from that hinge. So that's why they designed it this way. And now that this is screwed in place, I should have done it before, this little cable up here needs to go to the webcam plug right there. This little cable can be a bit of a pain. Especially if you have short fingernails like me. Okay, that is now in place. And now that all the screws are back in place here, we can put the display bezel back on. Simply line it up and push. sometimes you get little flying pieces of plastic. And now, if you wish, you may remove the tape and remove the plastic sheeting covering your new laptop screen. I guess I'll remove this little shard while I'm here. So working with these display bezels is sometimes a nightmare because it's just snap, snap, snap instead of something a little more durable. I'll just pull the tape out of the way there because I really don't care about it being in there. Okay. That is this back together. And now we will take the base of our laptop and bring it back out over here. Put the screen back into its holes there. We will thread this cable through the little black nubs over here. And very, very carefully line up this connector here. It's a bit of a tricky proposition if you have extra cable length. So be very, very careful. And when you have everything all lined up, press down with your finger on top a couple times to make sure everything's secure. And that should be good. Now, take your captive screw, which is not so captive, and connect it to the grounding connector over here. If I can get the screw to go in the hole. Here we are. Okay, so the screw is now in, and now begin the process of putting the screen screws back in, one at a time. One side, then the other side, one side, then the other side. And then before you turn your laptop over, feed the cable back through everything. Down through the hole to the other side where your Wi-Fi card will wait with bated breath. Okay, now this is connected, and these are back where they should be. And now you close the top, turn the laptop over, and replace the display screws here and on the other side for maximum screen stability. Push that. While you're here, you can push this cable back down through where it's supposed to go. Now, we're at the point of reconnecting the keyboard. So pull the keyboard out. Note that on the bottom there are 5 tabs which fit into 5 holes. Before you plug anything back in, make sure you connect this cable, the backlight cable. It's a little tiny cable. Connect the backlight cable and clip it down. Then connect the keyboard cable and clip it down. Then put the keyboard in place, snap the sides in, and use